I'm hopefully gonna hit the 15-minute mark, so bear with me. But okay, here it goes. Hello everyone, my name is Bio and I use they, them pronouns, and I am a non-binary lesbian. As a non-binary person, I should explain that this is an umbrella term, meaning that anyone that doesn't fit into the binary of male or female. For me personally, being non-binary is that I am not a male or a female, but I show social cues of both. But I would like to be mistaken for a man. I do not connect with my feminine side at all, so looking like a man and sounding like a man, but being able to wear dresses and makeup would be the ideal version of myself. I do, however, think that if I was born a man, I would still be non-binary eventually because I wasn't meant to fit into the binary ever. The earliest memory I have of being non-binary that really stands out to me was when I was about 6 years old. My parents started easing me into puberty by telling me you're going to go through some changes and you're going to grow into a beautiful young woman, and I immediately hated it and knew that it was wrong. For some reason, whenever my mom told me this, I got very upset and told God that I wasn't supposed to be a young woman, I was but a young man. Once I actually had to change my mannerisms and dress because of this, I remember crying almost every night because I had to pretend to be who I wasn't every day, and I remember begging God to miraculously make me a boy. This happened from ages about 6 to 9. Now I have been a tomboy my whole life, and since I'm non-binary, it honestly is still a fitting title. Not quite a girl, but not a boy either. From then on, I dressed and acted as close to a boy that was socially acceptable and thought girls were too emotional and dramatic, but still very pretty. And I always thought that I definitely was one up until I was about 16. I had never even worn dresses. So now on, from birth to 13, school and home life were uneventful, and I was a healthy and happy, God-fearing eldest child. I was my parents' pride and joy who emulated Christ. I went to church every Sunday and Wednesday, tithed, and got good grades. Life was good, and there was nothing special going on until I was about 13 years old. When I was 13, it was noticed that my back was not straight. As it turns out, no part of me was. And I had a bad hunch in my back. I was brought to the doctor who recommended me to a specialist, and it was aptly diagnosed that I had Sherman's kyphosis, which is exactly what the hunchback of Notre Dame has. The curve of my spine was at a 98 degrees, where a normal, healthy thoracic spine ranges from anywhere between 20 and 50 degrees, and this basically meant that my spine would eventually curve so much that it would crush my lungs and I would suffocate to death in under a year. This led me to once again turn to God and beg Him to save me and miraculously take this from me because it was too much to handle. I had my entire church congregation pray over me, and I had the pastor personally pray over me and said that he'd seen changes even though nothing did. I read every devotional I could get my hands on, and I prayed and I prayed and I just prayed. My parents didn't want me to get the surgery and they were trying to postpone it because there was a high chance of death or becoming paralyzed, and it was extremely expensive. I was ready to get it as soon as possible because I didn't want my back to get worse or possibly die. So I eventually convinced them, and a date was set. When the date came and I was not miraculously healed, I was crushed and my face started to dwindle. My parents tried to help by saying that because God didn't heal me, He was guiding the doctor's hands. So what's to stop Him then from paralyzing me or even just killing me since I have sinned and since He hadn't miraculously saved me? After the surgery, everything did go as planned, but I was in a lot of pain. And honestly, I can't remember the pain looking back on it, but apparently it was so bad that my mom swore that she would never put another one of her child's boobs again. So then everything was fine for about another year. When I went to the pediatric doctor again for my annual checkup, she noticed that I had hair on my chest and my chin, and she told my mom that this wasn't normal and I needed to go to an endocrinologist. So I went to the doctor again, and I was told that I have another huge diagnosis called PCOS, and I immediately had to start taking medicine to feel more like a woman. The diagnosis runs in my family, and PCOS stands for polycystic ovary syndrome or disease, and this syndrome means that my thyroid and my ovaries are working against each other, and because of this issue, I have more testosterone in my body. I have very rare periods, and they are sporadic, and I grow facial hair along with some other masculine traits. Another issue with the higher testosterone that ties into the sporadic periods is that my ovaries don't release eggs, which cause them to go cystic and linger in my body. And this can cause some extra painful cramping, but can go as far as giving me sepsis when they erupt. Later down the road, this syndrome can also cause ovarian cancer, which is one of the major reasons why I want to get sterilized in the near future. With how I was feeling with puberty and life, PCOS was honestly a godsend because I had never felt like a woman, and to me, this gave me a scientific excuse to why I never felt like one. After all of this, I was terrified of doctors and I didn't trust them anymore, so I took my health into my own hands and stopped taking my medicine and didn't worry about it until my parents found out. I don't remember a lot during these years, but one memory that really stands out for me from all the small fights with my parents was this one. My dad had noticed that I'd stopped taking my medicine for my PCOS and decided I need to start taking it immediately. So let's just say he made me. He said that he had lots of experience giving our pets their medicine, and so he knew how to get the job done. He then forced open my mouth, shoved the pills all the way in the back of my throat, and poured water into my mouth until I was choking and forced my jaw shut. He held it shut for about 3 minutes until I swallowed, and then when he thought I had swallowed, I immediately spit it out because I had thrown it up in my mouth. And when he saw this, he immediately started yelling at me for being a spoiled brat who was slowly killing myself because I wasn't taking it. He then sent me to my room without any consolation and grounded me for about a month without ever speaking about the issue again. While I debated including this as part of my life, it all ties together with how I feel about my parents and how they address issues. During this, my dad was the main aggressor, and while my mom and siblings ignored us and watched TV in the living room right across. This is how most events played out in our household. As I said, my mom was always passively watching, but whenever she was younger, she actually used to help. She used to make me feel safe and showed me that she was on my side, but then she stopped. Now for the fun part. All the events previously had formed my feelings, my reactions, and how I felt about myself and the world around me. At this point, I had felt like I wasn't doing enough to make my family love me, let alone God, so I was sure that I was going to hell because of my doubt, and I was constantly anxious about death and my relationship with God. This was from ages 16 to 19. During this time, gay marriage was also legalized, and it was basically the end of the world at my Christian school. I had actually just transferred to the school that year because my mom had been teaching there, and it was less stressful academically for me compared to my magnet school that I went to. I was told in the chapels that we, as a school, needed to pray for our country, and that the devil had gotten his foot in the door, and that it was soon going to take over the country. I was told that because gay marriage was legalized, it was a slippery slope, and soon pedophilia and bestiality would soon be legalized since they are all just as bad. I was also shown videos and taught that atheists are bad and that they only care about themselves more than any other people. And in videos that they showed me, they even said that they showed 10 atheists that said they would rather save their pets than a stranger. And as an atheist, I totally agree. Just kidding. I feel like I am more free to love and support everyone without the shackles of Christianity personally. So all that to say is that I was really ready to leave that school. Since gay marriage got legalized, I was also shown that a man could love a man and a woman could love a woman, and I had never experienced that before. This was a brand new concept, but was squashed out until I moved away to college. Once I did move away, I got a taste of the community, I found love, acceptance, and pride, and I saw that they just wanted permission to live like everybody else. So I started to believe that as long as they love God and go to church, who am I to say who they can and can't love? In college, I also saw that being sexually active is okay and healthy, and that everyone would meet the same end goal of graduating, even though everybody's paths were different. I can say that if I didn't go to this college and meet gay people and people who just had different ideals than me, that I would still be in the way back of the closet, in an old shoebox, underneath a pile of clothes. So I will forever be grateful for that school and my friends guiding me out. While I was at this college, I also had an amazing roommate who was my best friend, and her name was Lassie, and she was everything to me. She showed me that marriage and kids are not the most important things in life, and that she showed me so much love and compassion while I was there. She was the bestest friend I could ever ask for, and we shared lots of great experiences together. She showed me tons of new things, and was additionally the single most beautiful person I had ever met. So, if you can see where this is going, I fell in love with her, and she made me realize I was a lesbian 3 years later, after we moved away from each other. I wish more than anything I realized that I loved her while we were together, but things changed, and I've changed a lot since then. I changed colleges and moved back home in 2018 and started working as a substitute teacher around that time, and then the pandemic hit. The previous January, right before COVID hit, my 3 friends had all come out to me. One is bisexual, one is pansexual and agender, and the other one is a demi girl. I was shocked and nervous when this happened because I thought they were all going to hell and I had my own confused feelings about myself. So I told my mom about them, and she said that I shouldn't be friends with them and that because they might make me gay or make me fall in love with them. Even though she tried to stop me from hanging out with them and even called me while we were hanging out crying, worrying about me and saying that they were going to do something to me. I told her that just because who they love doesn't change anything about their friendship, and I wasn't going to tell her things if she kept acting this way. They're still my friends, and so we kept hanging out until March, and then COVID hit. And since we were all quarantined, we started quarantining together, and we got to hang out all the time. And I got to ask them questions about myself. I was able to figure out things, and I was able to try out new names and pronouns with them. If I didn't have them, then I don't know what I would have done. I also did a lot of research on my own with the help of TikTok, and soon decided that I was non-binary, and I changed my name to B and used she, they pronouns. And I chose bi-queer as my sexuality since I didn't know quite what I was. No one tells you how much you'll misgender yourself whenever you first diagnose, so. Stop writing when I have it on paper to finish it. So I soon found out that lying to my family wasn't working for me, and it was becoming harder to hide my pride. While life was happening around me, I was becoming more depressed. I started hating my job, hating my body, and really spiraling. This led to self-harm on the body I despise and isolating myself from everyone. Hiding my true form to my parents was a major part of this, but I was also having a severe mental health crisis. In April of 2021, I was home from a day off of substitute teaching, and I had a flood of intrusive thoughts. I wasn't able to This day was relatively uneventful, but the people around were amazing helping me, and with their help, I left 2 days later with a diagnosis of quiet BPD, which means borderline personality disorder, and I decided I needed to come out much sooner than later because this was a huge catalyst in my mental health crisis. And I also found out 2 days ago that BPD is actually made from childhood trauma, and that's how that kind of comes to be. So it was interesting. And I came out to them in May of 2021. I told my dad first because I knew he would be the most disapproving, and then I came out to my siblings and my mom. My dad just basically ignored me and said that he would talk to me whenever I told my mom, so I waited and I told my siblings. My sister thought I was going to hell, but other than that, she just said okay. And my brother had already known for a couple months because he's my confidant and the only one I adequately trust in my house. He doesn't care and isn't interested in knowing, but he's there whenever I need to tell someone. He's there to celebrate whenever I go on a date or talk whenever I just had a fight. Then I told my mom, and she didn't approve and she was quiet, and we just sat out there for a couple of minutes without her saying anything. Then my dad came out and spoke to her, and he said that he said that I was confused and that I was going to hell just for being rebellious, and I told him that I wasn't, and I was just trying to tell them more about who I truly was. I told them that I needed to do this in order to save my mental health, and I told them that wouldn't they rather get to know their actual child than the shell that I've been for the past year or more. I told them that I wasn't comfortable as a woman and I wasn't one, and they proceeded to demean me and it led to screaming while my mom just sat there backing up my dad, and I eventually left my room because I didn't want to be verbally harassed anymore. One thing that echoes in my head from this day which is what my dad said. He said, "You are my daughter, you will always be my daughter and God's daughter." And what he said was something he used to say to me whenever I was little, and it used to be really kind and caring, but now it's full of spite and harm. As they say, there's no hate like Christian love. Since I walked away from my dad, he thought that I also deserved a punishment worthy of the crime on top of me coming out, and said that I would not be gay in his house, so I needed to move out. I said okay, and I left, and I didn't know how I was going to move out or afford anything as I was in college and only working substitute teaching at the time. So I reached out to the Zebra Coalition and my friends, and things were quiet for a while, and a fight would pop up here and there, but I was saving money and trying to do the best I could. After I came out to all of them, I also called my aunt, and she helped me. She is my ally and my safe space, and I can honestly say additionally with her, I wouldn't be here today. She has held locations on days, she has let me vent, and she's given me great advice, and she was honestly just the best. Well, I told her what was happening, and I was just talking to her, and my mom decided to call her, and this was about 5 minutes after I came out. So we stopped talking, and she answered my mom. Come to find out, my parents had called all my extended family, aunts, uncles, grandparents, everyone, to out me without my consent or let alone knowledge. So that made me even more upset that I couldn't tell them in my own time, and now I was forcibly out to everyone I cared and loved about, and I was nervous about how things would change after we were able to meet again. As I mentioned, I reached out to my friends in the Zebra Coalition, and they helped me, and my friends, Olivia and her family, Armin and their family, and Georgie and Michelle, all said that I would never become homeless because of this, and they would let me stay with them if it came to it. My friends and their families became more loving than my family has ever been, so I'm eternally thankful for them. The Zebra Coalition helped me find a long-term goal and said I could have immediate housing and find out what I was going to do if I did get kicked out. So time passed, and about a month or so later, I asked my dad when I needed to be out by, as I was saving money, asking for support, and asking questions on my social media, and just seeing how I could survive on my own in less than 2 months. He said that he never had told me that, and then we fought about that, and at the end of it, he said he was clearly kidding, and that I was making a big deal out of it. So sure, I kept the plan in my back pocket and proceeded to leave at home with caution. So the hardest part was out of the way, right? I'm out and I'm proud, I don't have to hide anymore, and I couldn't be happier. Well, things didn't go good until about Father's Day, and then my sister decided to out me to my parents once again for being pan. I am not pan, I've never been pan, and apparently she overheard one of my friends talking and decided to tell that this was a secret that she couldn't keep. My dad got home from church, and on Father's Day lunch, he wanted to talk to me, and I knew that I didn't want to because a storm was coming, but I decided just to get it out of the way. They told me what she said, and I said that she was partly right, I was just more accurately bi because I didn't know who I was, but I mostly liked men at the time, but also non-binary people and women. And they completely lost it. They started yelling, screaming, saying how much of a disappointment I was, saying that they failed as parents because of me, and that I was only doing this to make them more upset and rebellious. I'm not, but I wasn't going to tell them about my sexuality anyway since I was still figuring it out myself. I didn't force this talk on them, they forced it on me. So that was fun as usual, but you can tell that coming out actually made my life harder. Yay. So this was all followed up by another threat to be kicked out, and I had asked a couple days later if this was legitimate, and it was not again. And during future fights, I've been threatened to kick out 2 more times. So let's just say he knew that this is what worried me, and that what flared up my anxiety, and that's exactly why he did it. So now we're nearing 2022, and I've been going by bio for a little bit over a year now and exclusively using they, them pronouns. I feel comfortable with the label of lesbian, which is non-men loving non-men, and I have seen the amazing human being I've run into. I have found my sense of style, the focal point being my earrings, my preferences, and my talents, and I feel like I have learned even more about my mental and physical ailments that have given me the opportunity to work with them and live my normal life again. I still have a lot more growing to do and a lot more learning to attain, but I'm in a much better place than I was even just a year ago. I have finished my year of teaching at my dream school, and I have exactly 3 semesters left until I graduate college and get to work at my dream school, and I have resolved most of the issues that were causing my mental health strain. Life has improved, and I've decided to leave organized religion personally, and I joined the Satanic Temple, or TSD. While this seems like the total opposite of Christianity, it's actually a political group and not a religion that classifies itself as a religion and follows tenets that they believe all people should abide by. And they provide resources that are religiously restricted in our country, a prime example being abortion. Through TSD, you can obtain the medication that provides that service because it's all a part of a religion, and same with same-sex marriage if that ever does get taken away. The reason I include TSD is because these are unknown times in America, and I want to give the resources to everyone, and because this is what started my social advocacy initiative to fight for people's rights who may not have a voice or strengthen the voices that are already out there. Through this, I have joined TSD, PFLAG, of course, and even GLSEN, and I couldn't be happier with you all, and you guys have truly made me feel welcomed and loved. I am honestly blessed to have been invited and have stayed because of you guys. I hope that I become a great safe teacher and slowly climb my way up the political pole to have a bigger voice and amplify those who need it. My family life is still rough and fights do happen, but I have learned to set boundaries, and when they are broken, my trust and respect goes with it. It has happened so often at this point that they are more like my landlords than my parents, and that's fine. If that's what they seek to accomplish, then that's their prerogative. Some of you guys may have heard the fight that happened in the Zoom meeting, and I just want to say thank you for the love and that things are back to normal. And you guys had just caught me at the end of my rope that day. I know that if he ever does act on his words, I will have an army of people behind me, and you guys have honestly helped so much, and I greatly appreciate everything that you have done. And the fact that you have let me share my story here tonight is something I never thought I would be able to fully share. I'm sorry that this is so long, but I'm glad I wrote it down because I would have been a mess without it. You guys are amazing, and I thank you all for your time. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me now or after the meeting or even on Facebook, so thank you all.